New York Governor Andrew Cuomo faces a backlash after he ignores his own advice on Thanksgiving gatherings. Also ahead, host of the Megyn Kelly Show, Megyn Kelly, joins us to break down the latest election news. It's time for Hold the Line.
What an honor and pleasant surprise during these hard times. I thank the International Academy and Bruce Paisner for this incredible award. Thank you to all the members of the Academy. Your work has brought smiles and hope and relief for so many people during these difficult days.
Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. That was New York Governor Andrew Cuomo accepting the International Emmy Award for his televised COVID-19 briefings. One thing I can tell you with certainty, the man can put on quite a show. For the better part of a year now, we've been subjected to a daily dose of sanctimony from Cuomo. His briefings often take on an accusatory tone as he scolds New Yorkers for failing to adequately follow state dictates, whether it's about masks or social distancing or limiting indoor gatherings. Of course, he doesn't really have to follow his own rules. On Monday, we found out that he planned on hosting his daughters and his 89-year-old mother for Thanksgiving up in Albany after lecturing Americans for weeks about how they need to limit holiday gatherings. Maybe skip Thanksgiving this year. Later in the day, though, Cuomo canceled those plans, not because he's scared of COVID-19 or because he feels bad, but because the hypocrisy was too glaring for the press to cover up. This isn't the first time Cuomo has failed to heed his own advice. The governor's also been busted flouting his own mask mandates on several occasions. Here's Cuomo back in July, rubbing elbows with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. This was just days before he called on President Trump to impose a national mask mandate. A month later, Cuomo was busted again, this time for failing to mask up while walking his dog. This phenomenon isn't unique to the New York governor. Over the past few months, we've had example after example of Democratic lawmakers ignoring COVID restrictions that they expect us to follow without question. We had Nancy Pelosi's infamous trip to the hair salon. Remember that one? Then she blamed the lady who ran the hair salon. It was all a trap. It was an ambush of Pelosi. Governor Gavin Newsom's fine dining experience at the French Laundry. Senator Dianne Feinstein walking through Dulles International Airport. No mask. The list goes on and on. Let me tell you something. This is the original sin of Democrats, of socialists, collectivists, people who believe in the plan, in the central plan. They don't really care what they themselves do that violates these dictates because they're all about the virtue and, of course, the power they get from dictating to others. They want the collective. They want the masses, the hoi polloi, the rest, the plebs, to obey these dictates. And they're good people for trying to jam it down your throat. You see this time and again when we're talking about COVID-19. We went through a list. We could go on and on. The people in charge don't think the rules should really apply to them. Their junkets, their trips, their gatherings and birthday parties, are important. How many funerals was John Lewis allowed to have? Oh, and I remember D.C.'s Mayor Bowser just decided that people coming back from Georgia, which had a very high level of COVID cases at that time, and would have required 14 days of quarantine coming back to D.C., but not if you were going to John Lewis's third funeral. No. Then it was fine. Then the virus all of a sudden was no longer a concern because, you see, they were important. We saw this also over the summer. We were being told all across the country, mask up, do your part, social distance. Unless, of course, you're burning down a small business or shattering the glass storefront of a sporting goods store, then all of a sudden it didn't really matter if you were gathering en masse because it was about BLM and saving black lives. That's what they told us. Got to have some riots, got to have mass gatherings, never mind the riots, just a lot of people on the streets. Wasn't all of a sudden a COVID risk. Why was that? That's right, hypocrisy. And this abounds. This is all over the place when you're talking about Democrats and the left. Climate change, another perfect example. John Kerry has been tapped as the new climate change czar, which is fascinating because here's a guy who really understands what it means to engage in climate change personally, as he's constantly flying around the world on private jets, has many yachts, many homes. Do you think he's got a small carbon footprint? This guy puts more CO2 in the air going back and forth between Martha's Vineyard and Boston than you and your family will do in 10 years, but he's going to be the climate change czar. because he's going to hold a whole bunch of meetings with other people that are usually arriving for those meetings in their own private jets. But you see, their personal behavior, they really don't think matters. They, in fact, buy the right to be hypocrites by making you suffer under their dictates. See? You're noticing a pattern here, aren't you? It's time we hold these hypocrites to account. It's time we recognize that they're not telling us all these things because it's just for our own benefit. They like the power that they wield. They like being able to break the dictates that they enforce upon all the rest of us. It breaks down our will to resist. If they can tell you, wear a mask, peasant, and you do it, and then you see them not wearing a mask, but you're still expected to do it, what other areas are they allowed to exceed their mandate? Where else will they start to shred the Constitution a little bit, tell you how it's going to be, and you say, sir, yes, sir, whatever you want? That's the attitude that these Democrats, these statists, leftists, collectivists, that's what they want the American people to have overall. They want to use this on climate change. They want to use this on every major policy agenda item you can think of where individual action is called for. Taxes, perfect example. Do you think they want to pay more or less in taxes? The elites, the Davos set, the same people flying around in those private jets to the climate change conferences, do you think that when they're filing their taxes at the end of the year, they're saying, you know what, I want to pay my fair share? Remember when Obama said that? I'm going to pay more. You can always, little known fact, you could always write, it's actually on your forms when you file your taxes, the biggest check you want to the government. Give them 90% of your earnings. John Kerry doesn't need it. Barack Obama doesn't need it. These guys are rich, but they call for increased taxes. Joe Biden, also very rich. And I don't just mean because of the stuff that he might have been getting kicked back from Hunter Biden from the Chinese. I'm talking about the stuff that he's made legally. His speeches, the books that are ghostwritten for him. He's another rich guy. But do you think that he's going to pay the highest possible tax rate? No. That's for you to do. Hypocrisy abounds. It's all over the place with these Democrats. You see it constantly, and they're not even ashamed of it. You see, that's one of the great benefits of this. If you sign on for the policy, if you say, I want the Green New Deal, I want socialized medicine, and then you actually fly around in your private jet, you buy your mansion in Malibu or Martha's Vineyard, big carbon footprint from that, by the way, and you make sure you have access to the best doctors, private doctors, some that won't even take insurance. It's fine, though, because you want what the left wants for the rest of us. The hypocrisy is excused, you see. It's like an indulgence in the medieval Catholic Church. You get the right to break the rules, to be bad, because you're making sure that everybody else is good, even if it's against their will. So remember that as we go into this Thanksgiving. How many of the people that you see on TV, how many of the loudest voices saying that you should skip your Thanksgiving, you should cancel it, are going to do that themselves? Not only that, if and when we catch some of them, and we already have caught so many of them, but if and when we catch some of these lockdown Democrats and their hypocrisy, do you think they'll have one moment where they feel a bit of shame? No, of course not. This is the game they always play. This is who they are. It's how they view everything. All right, the U.S. General Services Administration has informed Joe Biden that he can formally begin moving ahead with transition proceedings despite several outstanding lawsuits over the 2020 election. After the break, host of the Megyn Kelly Show, Megyn Kelly, is going to join us to discuss the latest. Stick around. I want you drinking the best coffee you can get anywhere, and I think that's Black Rifle coffee. This is what I drink every day, several times a day actually. And not only am I drinking the best small batch roast-to-order coffee imaginable, but I'm also supporting veteran law enforcement and first responder causes because Black Rifle Coffee gives back. In fact, they send coffee overseas to deployed soldiers and here at home, law enforcement officers, wildland firefighters on the West Coast, and medical workers during the COVID-19 response. They were doing that all across 2020. For every coffee purchase you make throughout November, Black Rifle Coffee will send a bag of their limited edition holiday roast to a service member currently deployed overseas. It'll be delivered by Christmas morning. Being founded and operated by veterans, the team at Black Rifle Coffee knows what a quality cup of coffee means to active duty troops spending the holidays away from home. Want to support the cause? Go to blackriflecoffee.com/buck. Check out the freshest coffee in America. The team has spent thousands of hours tasting, sourcing, and perfecting coffee from all over the world. blackriflecoffee.com/buck gets you 20% off coffee, apparel, and gear, as well as 20% off your first month of the coffee club. blackriflecoffee.com/buck. Welcome back. It looks like the presidential handoff has officially started. Joe Biden was formally given the green light by the chief of the GSA to begin a transition to the White House. But at the same time, President Trump is continuing his legal challenges to the November 3rd election. He's alleging widespread voter fraud. He tweeted out last night, "Oh, Trump, what does GSA being allowed to preliminarily work with the Dems have to do with continuing to pursue our various cases on what will go down as the most corrupt election in American political history? We are moving full speed ahead, never will concede to fake ballots and dominion." So what exactly is going on here? Here to discuss is Megyn Kelly, legendary journalist, host of the Megyn Kelly Show podcast, which you should all subscribe to and check out for yourselves. Megyn, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, good to see you, Buck.
So there's a lot of people complaining and freaking out about what's happening right now with Trump. But so far, would you say it's fair? And I know you have a legal background as well as a journalism background. This is all within the process. Things are moving, perhaps not at the speed that everybody, or at least some people would like, but things are moving along. And it's fair to say, I would think, that dictators don't usually take things to court and accept the court's decision.
Here's how I feel. It ain't over till it's over. And privately, if I'm having drinks at a cocktail party with a friend and they say, "What's the story?" I say, "It's probably over," right? It's probably over. But that's not the same as what's actually happening and what's responsible to say publicly in a reporting capacity. It isn't actually over. It's not. Trump's still got legal challenges pending. The states have not all certified their votes, and that's not going to happen until December 14th. And until then, what's the rush? Just calm down. It's good that he decided to cooperate with the GSA and Biden's team. Given the way the election looks now, there's no downside of doing that. Yes, it looks like Biden's going to be inaugurated as the next president on January 20th. What the hell's wrong with letting him kick the tires, pursue his legal challenges? It's not undermining the democracy. Sidney Powell's claims are extraordinary. They're different. But the sort of voter fraud, the laws weren't followed, they changed the laws in Philadelphia, those challenges, or Pennsylvania, are worth seeing through to the end.
And Megyn, we see a lot and hear a lot of what I think anybody would have to describe as hyperbolic analysis of this in the news media. Do you think it's fair to say, assuming, and I would agree with you, that the probability is certainly on the side of Joe Biden becoming the next president, but it is not over until it's over and the legal challenges should be exhausted. But it seems like journalists don't plan on going back to some older version of themselves, whether it was real or not, where they can report on things fairly, because here we are in a transition period, and they're still talking about Trump, the dictator who's responsible for killing 250,000 people. So under a Biden administration, are there really going to be calls for unity, and will the media magnify those, or go in the opposite direction?
I mean, wasn't it just last week that Christiane Amanpour compared Trump to Hitler?
Nazis, yeah.
Didn't we just learn you're not supposed to do that? Because it could really tick off 74 million people. They haven't learned anything. They really believe it. That's the thing. It's not like you're trying to stop them from saying something that's naughty, but their heart's not really in it. They believe it. They think Trump is Hitler-esque. They think his followers are racists and bigots and all the ists that are on the bad list. So they're not going to stop. It's not going to be a unified country, nor should it be, because the two sides don't see eye to eye and they have real battles that are worth fighting. I'm sick of the focus on that. I was like, stop saying we're unified and we're going to be unified. We're not going to be. And the Democrats wouldn't be saying that if President Trump had won again, Oh, yeah. If Trump manages to pull out these legal challenges and somehow reverses this whole thing, think the cry for unity will stand? I don't think so.
Yeah, unity right now, at least from the journalists and the Democrat elite, is essentially, shut up, Trump supporters. We don't want to hear it. You better come along for the ride or else. I mean, we all see what it is.
Shut up or we'll put you on a list. In fact, you're probably already on it.
There are. I know. I've probably been put on a few lists at this point. Megyn, I also wanted to ask you about the cabinet picks that were rolled out today. We see, here's Biden talking about it. We can hear from him himself.
Together, these public servants will restore America globally, its global leadership, and its moral leadership, and will ensure that our service members, diplomats, and intelligence professionals can do their job free of politics.
They're all saying that these are the experts, these are the top of the line folks. What do you think?
I think it's returned to the status quo that we had before Trump. A lot of Obama guys. It's no one that's going to sort of buck any systems or break any China whatsoever. And I think that's a loss for the people who put Trump in office. I don't think they wanted status quo. I think they wanted somebody, some something to be shaken up, and they're not going to get it. And it's unfortunate because, the people in middle America who felt ignored for so long, who put Trump in office and who voted for him again, they're going right back to where they used to go. Biden, forgive my confusion. He's already going back to the old policies. He's already said he's going to re-implement regulations that are meant to protect the environment, but really are just going to crush manufacturing in the Rust Belt, right? He's going to re-implement critical race theory mandated training sessions at the federal level, which Trump undid. I think what we're going to see is in a way, a lot of what Trump did to Obama, which is an unraveling of the previous administration's agenda, item by item. And while that may feel good for the Biden supporters, I think it'll have real impact on the election we're going to have in 2 years.
It certainly also seems like there's a big shift that could occur here in the approach that a future Biden administration would take based upon whether they have unified government or not. Control of the Senate still hangs in the balance. We've got 762,000 absentee ballots have already been requested in Georgia, 3 times the number of requests made in the 2018 elections, according to election officials there. So we're starting to see, Megyn, there's going to be a tremendous focus on this because, well, let me ask you, if, let's say, the Democrats are able to pull off these 2 Senate seats, they win these 2 Senate seats, so they will have a majority in the Senate. If they're able to do that, do you think that this allegedly centrist Biden administration that would be kind of a replay of some Democrat party that I think never really existed, but this is what the media is saying. Would they stick to that script, or all of a sudden is it, oh, okay, now it's our way, and you start hearing a lot more in terms of policies that would line up with more of what the squad would say?
I'd love to believe that Biden is a moderate. I'm more in the center than I am an extremist on the right, or certainly on the left. I'd love to think the guy's going to be a moderate. So far, I don't see it. He's going to get rid of the oil and gas industry. Critical race theory is coming back. He's already saying he's going to wipe out due process for men accused on college campuses. The first couple of things he said he's going to do don't sound very centrist to me. I think people need to be very cautious about how these Georgia races are going to go. I realize no Republican has ever lost a runoff in the state of Georgia, but Georgia's never looked like it looks right now in terms of its voter turnout or in terms of the stakes, right? The Democrats are going to pour every single dollar they have into trying to get these 2 seats. And, at least one of the candidates down there is not particularly popular. So, the Republicans, I know they're focused on the Trump fight right now. And there's a real question about where is it smart to place your energy, your money, and, your time. What's going to matter? Because if we have undivided government, Biden in the White House and the Dems control the House and the Senate, that's how we got Obamacare, right? Now you're talking about possible major reforms. And as much as Joe Biden said this or that or the other thing when he was running, seems already to be governing in a different way. And who knows? They start thinking about their legacy when they get in there. And the next thing you know, 1/6 of the economy has been turned around without majority support.
It's been fascinating to me, Megyn, to watch so many in the journalistic establishment talk about how Trump is a fascist who specifically destroys the First Amendment for 4 years, when all the people saying that have become more prominent, more famous, probably richer, better known for attacking this alleged fascist, which is not, I know quite a bit of history in this regard. It's not how it works out in real fascist countries. The press, you don't get elevated when you attack the dictator, right? So this is all Trump derangement syndrome nonsense. But if we do go into a Biden administration, there will be 95% or so of journalists who effectively feel like they're playing for the home team now. They're going to do everything they can to support this, to advocate for this, to limit, to stifle criticism out there. But yet we have these new platforms coming out. We have shows like yours, the Megyn Kelly Show. What do you view your role as now an independent media brand, and also some of these new platforms that are coming out like Parler and Rumble and these other areas that don't have legacy media control? What do they look like in a Biden administration? What are you going to try to do?
Well, I think the difference between me and most of those, legacy media operations is I don't have Trump derangement syndrome, and I have an affinity only for one thing, and that's the truth. My fealties to the truth, to my audience, which are the same, right? And I think that allows me to report on anybody fairly. I've been reporting on Trump fairly. I'll report on Biden fairly. But I also happen to understand the right half of the country in a way 99% of the journalists out there either don't or don't care to. So it's a real gift in covering the news because you can see the derangement syndrome. Before there was Trump derangement syndrome, there was Bush derangement syndrome. It's like most of the media hates conservatives, and they're going to report the news with those lenses on. And if you happen to have the gift of not wearing those lenses, I think you can see truth. I'm able to see when Trump does something controversial or, quote, bad. I can report on that easily, and I can certainly do the same for Biden. But I think, the difference is you look at Fox, for example, they're going to defend Trump, and they're going to go after Biden for the most part. But in their defense, they'll be the only one on news and on the television doing that. All the other media will be doing the other stuff, the print media, the television, the broadcast, the cable. The democracy dies in darkness, motto of the Washington Post, that's going to go away real fast. It's going to be, well, the light came out. What do you mean? We're good. We don't need any deep investigations. It's shiny now.
It's all going to be one big utopia for the media until we have some big problems, and then they're going to have to be playing defense for a guy who's almost 80 years old that had failed to become president for almost as long as I've been alive. So we'll see how that shakes out for them. He's been doing this for quite a while, but everyone should check out Megyn Kelly's show, the podcast that's out. Megyn, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you as always. Really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Are you ready for the Obama administration 2.0? With the transition now underway, Joe Biden has begun announcing his picks for key positions in a potential administration. We'll take a look at some of his choices when we come back. MAGA CBD benefits America's heroes with a revolutionary new product featuring patented NASA technology. So listen up, Patriots. Introducing MAGA CBD. This is a revolutionary new product that's safe for work, zero THC, and it's made right here in the USA. MAGA CBD features a patented NASA 3D stem cell and CBD3 technology, making it the best CBD on the market. You can literally see, taste, and feel the difference. MAGA CBD tastes great too with our signature all-American apple pie and other fun flavors. Best of all, 10% of the proceeds benefit veterans and first responders, our true American heroes. Go to magacbd.org to order now and use the promo code THEFIRST for 20% off. I've been trying this. It's really helped me with sleep, and like so many other people who try MAGA CBD, I feel like there's just general benefits that calm you down. magacbd.org. That's all you have to do. Go to that website, use promo code THEFIRST for 20% off.
Together, these public servants will restore America globally, its global leadership, and its moral leadership, and will ensure that our service members, diplomats, and intelligence professionals can do their job free of politics.
That was Joe Biden earlier today announcing his potential cabinet members. The news got a euphoric reception from journos, we all know who they want to win this thing, who described the lineup as historic, diverse, prestigious, apolitical, and of course credentialed. But are they really? What lies behind the headlines? Is it possible that most of these picks are just retreads, recycled Obama bureaucrats looking for their next sinecure? Could they all just be some Beltway-approved, quote, experts, unquote, whose views have been repudiated over the last 4 years of Trump's foreign policy? Are they all just forever war, drone-loving foreign interventionists? We're going to examine all this and more on today's Buck Brief. Oh, it's getting swampy already in the Biden universe, at least that is. They're telling us who they're going to be putting forward. A lot of folks that you'll remember from the Obama administration, and then a bunch of others you probably never heard of before, taking senior posts. They're putting forward the National Security Advisor, the DNI, a lot of people. We've already heard about Secretary of State, and now you've seen it here. You got a whole bunch of folks. UN Ambassador, Director of National Intelligence, Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. So look, these are people that generally are in government. Here's the thing. There are some concerns about the record in government that these individuals have. One thing that we have learned from Trump, who was supposed to be terrible on foreign policy, didn't start a war though, did he? Didn't get us into some godforsaken conflict thousands and thousands of miles away that we're stuck in many, many years, in some cases decades later, without even really knowing while we're there. Trump didn't get that thing started, did he? No, in fact, he did put America's foreign policy interests first. So why are we bringing back people from the Obama era? Well, because the journalistic and DC Beltway establishment loves people who have worked at certain places in the past and have institutions on their resume that they like, regardless of what the actual results of their policy decisions were. So here's Politico saying that Biden reveals national security team stacked with Obama veterans. Let's all be very clear about this. The weakest part of the 8 years of the Obama administration, the part of Obama's time as president that is the easiest to just pull apart, to annihilate, is his foreign policy record. That's the one area where after 8 years you say every major national security and foreign policy challenge got worse over the period of Obama's presidency. Nothing improved. You look at Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, China. Find me a country where we have a serious national... Russia. Russia was doing all of its aggressive stuff while Obama was president. Russia seized Crimea. Russia invaded Ukraine with its paramilitaries, right? We saw that happen while Obama was president. But of course, Russia with Trump is what the journos have been saying here for years. Let's go through some of the individuals here. I mean, so there's the Obama administration, catastrophic failure on foreign policy, and now we're seeing some of them brought back in as if now, what's going to be improved upon? Oh, European bureaucrats, with their frothy lattes are going to say that things are better now because they don't have that vulgar Trump running around with his people. Who cares? I don't care what they think in Brussels. I actually care what they think in the Midwest. I care what they think in Texas, in Montana, in Maine, in California. I care what Americans think. But not this foreign policy crew. No, they're going to want to make sure they get a lot of consensus opinion from the rest of the world. And by the rest of the world, they mean elites in European capitals where some of these individuals are hoping to be spending a lot of their time, no doubt, under a future Biden administration. Speaking of French, fancy people who speak French, John Kerry, he said this in 2016. Let's roll it.
There will be no separate peace between Israel and the Arab world. I want to make that very clear to all of you. I've heard several prominent politicians in Israel sometimes saying, well, the Arab world's in a different place now. We just have to reach out to them and we can work some things with the Arab world and we'll deal with the Palestinians. No, 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 and no. I can tell you that, reaffirmed even in the last week as I have talked to leaders of the Arab community. There will be no advance and separate peace with the Arab world without the Palestinian process and Palestinian peace. Everybody needs to understand that. That is a hard reality.
No, the hard reality is that John Kerry doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. He was wrong, as we know. There have been peace deals signed between Israel and other Arab states that have nothing to do with the Palestinian process. But see, he was a foreign policy consensus figure. What do the elites, what do the think tanks, what do the large international media organizations support as foreign policy? John Kerry's a mouthpiece for that. And he has this very serious tone and he seems professorial. Turns out the guy's a clown and a mediocrity who married into a lot of money and has been running for a very safe Senate seat ever since. We got Antony Blinken. He was a guy who said, well, here you go. He's pro-Iraq war. President-elect Joe Biden's pick for Secretary of State received criticism for his recent consulting work and early support for the Iraq war ahead of his announcement for the Post. Now, look, a lot of conservatives, a lot of people on the right supported the Iraq war as well. We got to say that. But you would think that we've learned a lesson here, and people that were that wrong about something that important wouldn't be placed in an elevated position, get promoted essentially. That's what's happening here. You have Sullivan, who's going to be who's going to be the National Security Advisor. Daily Caller points out that Biden's pick for National Security Advisor sent classified emails on, this is Jake Sullivan, classified emails on Hillary's server and hyped fake Trump-Russia collusion story. That's right, you're going to have some Russia collusion truthers who are now in very senior positions in government. Get ready for that. No consequences for being wrong. No downgrade in their professional prospects. You see, that's what the swamp is all about. It's like a big club. And as long as you go along with what the swamp wants, you are protected, you are elevated, you get board seats, you get book deals, TV gigs where you get to wax philosophical about things where you're catastrophically wrong, and people can even lose their lives because of these bad policies. We're talking about overseas wars, things like that. Doesn't matter. They're bringing back the swamp with everything they've got. And just be prepared for journalists to be shining the throne of not just Joe Biden, but every senior administration official that he brings along for the ride here. And Biden's going to have to lean on these people because he's going to have some confused moments. There's going to be some times where Joe Biden's sitting there and you're saying, what the heck did he just say? And Joe Biden's not going to know what he just said either. So the swamp, it's going to be back in vogue in a Biden administration. Get ready for it. But don't worry, folks. We will hold them to account here. So you have many women who are going to be heading to the House of Representatives for the first time in January, including
when we heard what the Democrats want to do with our Second Amendment rights, when Beto O'Rourke came to a presidential debate stage and told all of you peaceful, freedom-loving patriots, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s and your AK-47s. I said a little more than that. At his presidential rally in Aurora, Colorado, I drove down there with my Glock on my hip. I looked him in the eye and I told him, hell no, you're not.
Colorado Congresswoman-Elect Lauren Boebert was there rallying a crowd of patriots at the Million MAGA March in D.C. just a couple of weeks ago. She was showing her support for President Trump and the Second Amendment. And now the pro-gun activist who, quote, straps a Glock to her hip, because she actually does that, is looking to carry her weapon on Capitol Hill grounds when she takes office in January. She tweeted out, our constitutional right to bear arms exists even in places that reject this fundamental principle. Boebert is the first woman to represent Colorado's 3rd congressional district. She joins us now. Lauren, first off, congrats on the big win.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor to not only be the first woman to represent and serve the people of Colorado's 3rd district, but I'm the first mom to do so.
That's fantastic. Now tell us about this quest to carry on Capitol Hill. How is this going to play out, you think?
Well, being in Washington, D.C., like most Democrat-ran cities, there is a very huge problem with violent crime. Their crime rate in Washington, D.C. is 158 times higher than the national average. Buck, I am 5'0". I'm 100 pounds. If there was an aggressor that came to do me harm, I don't know if I could really fend him off with my fist. And that's exactly what I was telling Beto O'Rourke last year, that he wanted to strip my right away to defend my life and even the people around me. And so I absolutely intend to get my concealed carry permit in Washington, D.C. and carry on the Hill. As of right now, there isn't anything that would prevent me from doing so. And I don't want to rely on Capitol Hill police to put their lives on the line and at risk in defending me. So also, I'll be walking to work and from work each day that I'm there. And I'm not going to have Capitol Hill police escorts while I do that.
Are you getting pushback already, though, from the powers that be in D.C.? Do you think that there's a realistic chance you might be successful in this one? Because, as you know, our nation's capital, bizarrely, as a Democrat stronghold, doesn't really believe very much in citizens' right to bear arms at all.
Most Democrat-ran cities and states don't. They don't believe that we, the people, know how to take care of ourselves. They believe that government is the almighty power that knows how to take care of us better than we know how to. So I haven't seen that pushback just yet. But then again, these stories just started coming out while all of us are at home. So I'll be back in D.C. next week to finish up the freshman orientation. So we'll see what everybody says when I get back.
Speaking about at home, you also tweeted out about Thanksgiving lockdowns. If anyone tells you that you can't celebrate Thanksgiving in your own home, there's a document that says you can. Here's a copy of it. How are things going in your home state of Colorado with the lockdowns? I know I can tell you here in New York, we're way beyond what the science says, and now we just do whatever the Democrat lockdowners tell us.
It's terrible that these governors are stepping into people's homes and telling them what they can and can't do. I will absolutely be celebrating Thanksgiving with my family. I've been on the road for a year and have been separated from them far more than I ever intended. And I'll be celebrating Thanksgiving with them. But these are draconian measures that are being put into place, and our rights and freedoms are being stripped from us. Our liberties are being taken away on a daily basis. And just because we are in a pandemic doesn't mean that we don't have rights. I believe that it is government's responsibility to secure our rights and to secure our freedoms and deal with the pandemic.
You know, you're part of what will be 141 women in the 2021 Congress when it gets going here. At least 36 of them are GOP members. So we're seeing more female representation in the GOP ranks. What are you going to be trying to do once you take on this role? I know you're going to be in the minority, although we did pick up GOP Senate seats, House seats this time around. What are you hoping to accomplish in your first 2 years?
Well, I think a lot of us are here to stop the socialist agenda that's being promoted. And there's something brewing in America. And that's why we're seeing so many women on the GOP side who have stepped up to do their part to serve their country. We've been watching. We have been listening. And there have been a few women in particular over the past 2 years that we've heard a lot from. And individually, women all across this nation started saying, they don't represent me. These women in the squad don't represent me, the country I know and love, and the America that I'm raising my children to send out into. So I think a lot of us are there to stop that socialist agenda, especially us being in the minority. There is a little bit of hope with them having such a slim majority that we could reach across the aisle and get something accomplished for the good of the American people. But if it grows government and costs the American people more, I'm a no.
Lauren, you mentioned at least one member of the squad. You're going to be a new incoming, I don't know if we say fresh person. I think it used to be freshman Congress member now. I don't know what the preferred nomenclature is. First term Congresswoman. But Nicole Malliotakis from here in New York City. I mean, there are a handful of you that'll be first time members of Congress and female members of Congress. What are the chances you create a constitutional squad, if you will, an answer to the socialists?
You know, I think that's what we're all here to do. So you could put whatever label you want on it or try to group them however you want. But there are 17 of us who were all elected to serve the people in our districts and secure the Constitution. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm fine with whatever label gets put on it as long as we are there doing what we promised our people that we would do.
Well, Congresswoman Boebert, great to have you join us. It was fun to interview you when you were still running, and now that I get to say congratulations, even more fun. Thanks so much. We appreciate it, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
It's almost time for our daily roundup of the looniest stuff from the left on the interwebs. The buckshot. It is next. These days, being prepared for the unknown is more important than ever. I'm sure you've noticed the world we live in is anything but predictable. We could all benefit from something reliable right about now. Well, what could be more reliable than real gold and silver? I'm talking about real gold and silver you can actually hold right in your hands. Call the Oxford Gold Group right now. Learn how easy it is to get real gold and silver sent securely directly to your home, or how you can have real gold and silver placed in your IRA or 401k. I've done this. It's so easy. I've got gold coins, gold bars, silver bars, all from the Oxford Gold Group, sent right to my home. So straightforward. Just call them, tell them what you're looking for, and they'll walk you through the process. Call the Oxford Gold Group at 833-600-GOLD. Ask for your free guide on owning gold and silver. Again, call the Oxford Gold Group right now, 833-600-GOLD. The Oxford Gold Group is the only gold company I trust. That's who I get my gold and silver from. Call them right now at 833-600-GOLD. One more time, that's 833-600-GOLD. Check them out today. A journalist calls for Trump supporters to be reprogrammed. An author compares COVID-19 to the Holocaust, and Democratic excitement over Biden's cabinet choices go a little too far. It's all coming up in tonight's Buckshot. Now, as Biden unrolled some of his picks here, you might have noticed there was a lot of enthusiasm in the media for this. There was a lot of journos who were saying, oh, this is the best of the best, the A-team, the creme de la creme. when possible, talking about these fancy types. Use French terms. They prefer that. But then there was a little bit of a memory lane throwback here that we could take you down, where we remember what it was like when some of the journals were finding out about Trump cabinet picks in 2016. Play that one.
All of it, Jessica, obviously noteworthy, but again, to have the first Latino, first immigrant heading DHS, that's a mighty big deal.
Instead of draining the quote-unquote Washington swamp, which is what we heard from so many of those rallies with Donald Trump, now it looks like he's wading deep into the waters here in Washington.
It's quite a contrast. In January of this year, Ron Klain wrote a piece for The Atlantic talking about what needed to be done for the pending crisis.
You're not draining the swamp, you're just putting a whole bunch of critters in it.
Just a little bit of a comparison there. We got a lot more for you. Don't worry. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You see, the new people coming in are amazing. The old people were treated kind of poorly. So that's not a surprise to anybody. But people who are being treated very well who don't deserve it in the public eye right now. Top of that list would have to be Governor Cuomo. And here you go. Here's the way the celebrities love the governor of New York, who just got an Emmy. Play it.
Thank you for your leadership during these trying times. We are New York tough, smart, disciplined, united, and loving.
Thank you, Governor. Stay safe, and please wear a mask.
I want to say congratulations again, and anything that you didn't like that I said was your brother Chris's idea.
Congratulations, much love. Brooklyn loves you. Andrew Cuomo! Mwah!
Yeah. Cuomo is the guy who presided over the worst response of any leader of any state in the country, and perhaps one of the worst in the entire world. But he's gotten more popular. The libs love him even more. He got an Emmy. He wrote a book on leadership. This is thermonuclear level gaslighting. I've never seen anything like this before, honestly, ever in politics, where someone is so egregiously terrible at one specific thing and is then universally, it seems, by the Democrats and the left, held up as some kind of shining example on it. Wow. And then you have the unity theme as that continues to play out. We've been told many times that Democrats are going to want to call for unity and they want us to all come together, which, as we've discussed, means shut up, conservatives. You're not allowed to have any point of view. You voted for Trump, you be quiet. Some of the libs aren't even going through that process of pretending that they want unity. They'd rather jump right to the part where they can get vengeance against us, or they can brainwash us to agree with everything that empty suit Mr. Magoo Joe Biden's going to be saying. Here is David Atkins. Never heard of this guy before. He's a journalist, though. He's got a blue check. You see that? He writes, "No, seriously, how do you deprogram 75 million people? Where do you start? Fox, Facebook? We have to start thinking in terms of post-World War II Germany or Japan, or the failures of Reconstruction in the South." I've seen other journalists, big-name journalists actually on the left, call for we need some kind of a reconciliation commission. Effectively, they want to institutionalize, they want to create a process for naming and shaming Trump supporters so that there's never a return to the Trump Republican Party, whether that's in Donald Trump himself running or in anybody taking up his mantle and going forward. All I can say is bring it on, libs. The more they do this crazy stuff, the more we say we're in for this fight. Let's see what you've got. Joyce Carol Oates. Some of you may know her as a professor of literature at Princeton University, a place you're supposed to think is really impressive until you see a lot of the alumni who come out of there and realize, not so much. But Joyce Carol Oates is best known perhaps for, we don't have this tweet, but I'm just calling for this. She thought that Steven Spielberg posing next to a dead Triceratops on the set of Jurassic Park was like evil hunting and was very upset. That's a real thing that she did. You can check that one on the internet. So she's not somebody that I think you want to go to for takes on the news of the day. But this one was, wow, going right to the Holocaust. Joyce Carol Oates, author. For many she won't even write Trump, pro-Trump Americans, the pandemic is like the Holocaust to many Germans. They knew what was happening but adjusted to living with it in indifference or in some cases profiting from it. Only if it affected personally do people seem to care. Wow. Tenure professor at Princeton and obviously a moron. So that at least lets people know who aren't very bright that they can get essentially unfireable jobs as long as they're leftists at major American universities with multi-billion-dollar endowments. There you go, Joyce Carol Oates. And then there's, how many of you remember the movie Mrs. Doubtfire? Great movie for what it was. I don't even know if you could get away with making that today. Most of the great comedies of the 90s, you couldn't make it. You couldn't make Mrs. Doubtfire. It wouldn't be allowed. They would shut you down for a whole lot of reasons. You couldn't make There's Something About Mary. Anyway, I could go on. But the screenwriter for Mrs. Doubtfire apparently is somebody who has a political following and shares things online. She's a blue check, so that means it's fair game. She wrote that Randy Mayhem Singer, Biden's flow of experienced and qualified cabinet picks are like democracy foreplay. I can't wait for the orgasm. January 20th. Remember Chris Wallace talking about the thrill up the leg when Obama gave a speech? These Democrats, they've been talking about Trump cultists for 4 years. When we weren't cultists, we just thought that Donald Trump was really necessary corrective for the failures of the elites in this country and for speaking for the common and the working man. And now we're going to see this whole shift toward the utter worship of Joe Biden, somebody who anyone who's not completely delusional recognizes is a mediocrity and often a clown. But don't tell the Hollywood liberals that, because they're all going to sign up to worship at the throne of Biden. That's going to happen for sure. But we won't do that here. We will actually keep it real. We will hold the line. That's it for us today. Up next, the No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly. Good night, everybody, and shields high.